It was late October, one of those days where the sky just hangs gray and low like a dirty wool blanket, and the wind bites with the first sharp taste of winter. I was in my front yard, untangling a mess of string lights shaped like skeletons, cursing softly to myself and sipping from a lukewarm travel mug of coffee. Halloween was just a few days away, and I was determined to make this the year I finally out-decorated my neighbor across the street. I had a whole scene planned: tombstones in the grass, fog machine under the porch, even a motion sensor that would trigger a blood-curdling scream when someone stepped onto the walkway. That's when I heard the voice. "You really go all out, don't you?" I turned around. A woman stood on the sidewalk. I hadn't heard her approach. She was maybe in her late 40s, with dark auburn hair that looked too rich and perfect for her pallid, almost gray skin. She wore a long black coat, not warm-looking, more like something ceremonial, and a red scarf that seemed to soak up all the color from the day. Her eyes were what got me, though: pale. So pale they looked almost silver. I laughed awkwardly. "Yeah, I guess. I get kind of into it." She stepped closer to the edge of the lawn, her boots crunching over dead leaves. "Halloween is the one night the veil lifts," she said, like she was quoting something. "The one night where we don't have to pretend the world is what we think it is." Yeah," I said, glancing toward the door, half hoping my wife might appear to bail me out. "It's fun for the kids, you know." She tilted her head. "Fun, right?" There was a long pause. I tried to busy myself by sticking a plastic raven on a porch rail, but I could feel her eyes on me, watching like I was a puzzle she was trying to solve. "You know," she said softly, "this house has a history. You probably don't know it. Most people don't." I turned to her again. "Sorry, have we met?" I asked, finally trying to get a feel for whether this was someone from the neighborhood I just hadn't seen before. She smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind you see in old oil paintings, tight-lipped and secretive. "No," she said, "not really." I frowned. "Do you live around here?" "Not anymore." She took another step forward, her boots just touching the grass now. Her eyes flicked over the porch decorations, the lights, the fake skeleton slumped in a rocking chair. "They used to do real rituals on this land," she said, her voice dreamy now. "Long before this town was here. Fires, offerings, bones in the ground. Then someone built this house right on top of it. Forgot what came before." I forced a smile. "Well, I'll keep an eye out for bones when I'm planting mums." She didn't laugh, didn't even smile this time, just stood there looking at me. "There's something about this place," she whispered. "You ever notice how quiet it gets at night?" "Sure. We're off the main road." "No, not that kind of quiet," she said, stepping off the sidewalk now, onto my lawn like she belonged there. Listening quiet, like something underneath the ground is waiting for you to fall asleep." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "Look, I should get back to decorating." She nodded slowly, as if she were allowing me to leave my own conversation. Then she stepped closer to the tombstones I'd set out, crouched down, and touched one of them. "Clay," she muttered. "You molded this out of clay, just like they used to, except theirs weren't pretend." "Okay, seriously," I said. "Do you need something? Because this is starting to feel like trespassing." She stood again, slow and deliberate, and turned toward me. "There's something about October," she said. "It stirs the ground, wakes up what sleeps, and if you dress your house like a graveyard, sometimes something might think it's home." I stared at her, heart thudding now. My voice came out flatter than I wanted. "You need to go." She smiled again. "I already have." I blinked. She was gone. No footsteps. No sound of walking away. Nothing. Just a swirl of dry leaves moving across the lawn in the wind. I stood there for a while, feeling like the world had tilted slightly, like the ground wasn't as solid as it used to be. I walked the whole perimeter of my house. She wasn't there. Later that night, I told my wife about it. She figured it was just some local eccentric, maybe a neighbor I hadn't met, but something about it didn't sit right. That night, as I lay in bed, I listened. She was right. The quiet wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, like it was pressing against the windows, crouching in the corners of the yard, watching. At 3:13 a.m., I woke up to the sound of footsteps on the porch. I crept to the window and peeked through the blinds. The fake skeleton in the rocking chair was gone. In its place sat a woman in a black coat and a red scarf, rocking slowly, staring straight at the house, at me, and smiling. I was 17 that fall, hair down to my shoulders, denim vest patched up with Sabbath, Ozzy, and Alice Cooper, and a wallet chain that could have doubled as a weapon. Halloween in '87 came with cold wind and rust-colored leaves skipping across the asphalt like little ghosts. I remember the clouds hanging low like ash in the sky. Everything looked dead. Perfect setting for a dare. The girl's name was Tanya, jet black hair, deep red lips, and eyes that made you feel like you were either about to get kissed or cursed. She was into tarot cards, horror flicks, and loved to hang around with the weird kids. But for whatever reason, she laughed at my stupid jokes and always asked what I was listening to. She dug the darker stuff, liked to say she had one foot in the spirit world. I thought that was hot. It was Halloween day, school let out early, and a bunch of us were hanging out behind the gym, smoking cloves and pretending to be tougher than we were. That's when Tanya said it. "I dare you to spend Halloween night in Grey Ditch Cemetery." She smiled when she said it, but there was something else in her eyes, like she wanted me to say no. "I'll do it," I said like an idiot. "I'll even bring my boombox. Ozzy and the Dead sounds like a party." Grey Ditch was this overgrown patch of land on the edge of town, old as hell. Half the stones were crumbling, half were so weather-worn you couldn't read the names anymore. People said it was cursed. Some old Civil War mass grave supposedly ran beneath it. Others claimed witches were buried there. It was the kind of place parents told you not to go, and kids made out in. I got there just after dark. Clouds hung heavy over a sliver of moon, and the air smelled like wet leaves and rust. I had my army surplus sleeping bag, a flashlight, a couple of cans of warm beer, and my trusty boombox loaded with a fresh pair of D batteries. First track I played, Mr. Crowley. Of course, I set up near the tallest headstone I could find, this weird black monolith with a name I couldn't pronounce. Polish or something. Everything was quiet, but not peaceful. The way the wind moved through that place, it didn't sound like wind. It sounded like voices. Low, moaning voices just beneath hearing, but I laughed it off and cracked a beer. Around 11, I heard footsteps. I killed the music and sat up. "Tanya?" I called out, hoping she'd come to see me, maybe even join me. I got no answer, just more footsteps, slow, uneven, like someone dragging one leg. The flashlight flickered. then died. Cheap batteries. I cursed and pulled out my lighter. That's when I saw him. A figure, no more than 10 feet away, dressed in tattered clothes, soaked through. His eyes weren't right. Milky, like they'd been underwater for a long time. Skin hanging loose off the bone. His mouth was slack, but still, he whispered something. I swear it wasn't English. I ran. I didn't even grab the sleeping bag or boombox. Just bolted through the rows of stones, tripping over tree roots and cracked graves. I didn't stop until I hit the cemetery gate, and even then, I could feel something behind me, watching. But I didn't go home. I should have. I really should have. But something pulled me back. Curiosity, maybe, or pride. I told Tanya I'd stay the night, and I didn't want to be a coward. I waited an hour, then crept back in, this time quieter, staying low. I figured maybe it was a prank. Maybe someone was trying to scare me off. Back at my little camp, the boombox was still there. Music was playing, but the tape had flipped to side B. Here's the thing, though. Side B was blank. I'd never recorded anything on it. But there was music playing, faint, eerie, like a music box from another room. And under the music, a voice whispered, my name. Not just once, again and again, warped and distorted, like it had been recorded underwater. I smashed the thing, just full-on picked it up and threw it against a gravestone until the plastic cracked and tape spilled out like guts. Then I heard laughing, a woman's laugh. Tanya, number. It was too far off and too old. Then came the lights, little greenish-blue flickers like candles or fireflies, only they moved in patterns, circles, spirals. They hovered around the graves, then started floating up, out of the ground. I froze, couldn't move. The ground near me shifted, like something underneath was pressing against the surface, trying to rise. And then I saw them. Figures, translucent, some whole, others torn and broken, spirits, ghouls. One crawled out of a grave on all fours, no lower jaw, just a black hole where its mouth should be. Another hovered above the tombstone I'd first set up camp near, her eyes locked on me, bleeding black tears. I finally ran again, and this time I didn't stop, didn't look back. My lungs were burning, but I didn't care. I made it out, collapsed in the middle of the road, and dry heaved until sunrise. I told everyone the next day I'd made it through the whole night, played it cool. Tanya didn't press me on it. She just looked at me, really looked at me, like she could see through the lie. I never went back to Grey Ditch, not for my boombox, not for anything, and I've never listened to side B of any tape since. Every Halloween, without fail, I wake up at exactly 2:17 a.m., the time that damn music started playing. Sometimes I hear whispers just outside the window. Once, I swear I saw Tanya's reflection in the mirror, though I haven't seen her since high school. Metal taught me a lot about darkness, about death, but it never told me it could follow you home, that the things you mock on album covers might be real and waiting. Still got my denim vest, though, and I never stopped listening to Sabbath. But I don't go near cemeteries. Not anymore. You always hear the spooky stories that take place on Halloween night. The haunted house down the road, the ghost kids who knock on your door past midnight, the costume that wasn't a costume. But mine happened during the day. It was Halloween of 2003, a Friday, and I was a sophomore in high school. Back then, I lived in a small New England town called Wexler Hollow, nestled between maple-lined hills and broken stone fences older than America itself. Fall came early and full in those parts. By the end of October, the trees were fireworks of amber, rust, and gold, and the air smelled like wood smoke, crushed leaves, and cider. I can still remember that day vividly. The sky was brushed in thin October clouds, like gray gauze pulled over the sun. The air had that crisp, dry bite to it, just cool enough to nip your nose, but not cold enough for a heavy jacket. I had my backpack slung over one shoulder, hoodie half-zipped, and I remember crunching every leaf I could on the walk home from school, the way kids do. Halloween was serious in Wexler Hollow. Storefronts had cobwebs and skeletons in the windows, jack-o'-lanterns lined porches, and the town had a weird little festival every year in the common. Hay rides, apple bobbing, and costume contests. Everyone was buzzing about it all day at school. I had plans that night to go trick-or-treating with my buddies, even though we were probably too old. We didn't care. It was the last year we could probably get away with it. I was thinking about what horror movies we might watch later, probably The Thing or Night of the Living Dead, when I came to the corner of Maple and Stetson, right near the cemetery. That's when I saw him, an old man standing dead center on the sidewalk, staring right at me. He looked wrong. His clothes were filthy and torn, an old brown coat buttoned wrong over a moth-eaten sweater. His pants were stained with what looked like motor oil or something darker. His hair was long and greasy, matted in places, and his beard was wiry and full of leaves. His eyes were what really got me, pale like old blue glass, and absolutely locked on me. He didn't look away, not once. I slowed down, unsure. I considered crossing the street, but there weren't any cars, and honestly, I was worried about insulting him. So I kept walking, cautiously, hoping maybe he'd just step aside. He didn't. He raised a hand and said, "Happy Halloween, boy." His voice was hoarse, like someone who'd been shouting for days, or maybe hadn't spoken in years. I nodded, awkwardly. "Yeah, you too." I tried to walk past, but he stepped into my path. "You dressing up tonight?" he asked. There was something oily and gleeful in his tone, like the idea delighted him far more than it should have. I gave a half shrug. Yeah, just gonna go out with friends." "Going door to door, are you?" he said, and his teeth showed in a twisted grin. They were yellow and cracked like old gravestones. "Looking for treats?" I nodded again, but I was backing up now, just slightly. The street was dead quiet. No cars, no people, no wind. Just the ticking of dry leaves spinning along the curb. The man took a slow step forward. "Do you know why they wear the masks?" he asked. "Do you really know?" I shook my head. "To hide from the dead," he said. "They walk on Halloween, boy. That's what the Celts believed. Samhain. The veil thins. The spirits bleed through." His eyes gleamed, and he licked his cracked lips. "Do you know what was really given out in the old days?" he continued. "Blood and bone. Offerings to keep the ones beneath the hills asleep." I felt the hair on my neck rise. "I should get going," I muttered, trying to edge around him again. He reached out then, just a hand, like a casual gesture, to pat my shoulder maybe. But when his palm turned upward, I saw it. A symbol. Carved. Right into the center of his hand was a bleeding pentagram, not inked, not painted. It was raw, fresh, the lines still weeping red into the creases of his skin. I jumped back, heart pounding, almost tripping over my own feet. "What the hell?" I stammered, but he just laughed. A dry, scratchy, too loud laugh that rang through the empty street like a bell in a crypt. I turned and ran. I didn't look back, not until I was nearly 2 blocks away. When I did, he was gone, just vanished. No old man, no trace. I told my friends about it that night, of course. They made jokes, called him the Halloween Warden or the Pentagram Prophet. We laughed it off and went trick-or-treating like nothing happened. But the whole night, I felt like something was watching me. I kept seeing shadows move where they shouldn't, kept catching glimpses of greasy hair and a twisted grin in the corners of windows. I never saw the old man again, but sometimes, even now, I'll wake up from a dream of walking home on that crisp October afternoon. I'll feel the dry leaves crunch beneath my feet, smell the wood smoke and apple skins in the breeze, and I'll see that hand again, the carved pentagram, still bleeding, and I'll hear that laugh still ringing through the hollow